In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. These weeks after Easter are normally a time when the Church rejoices in the resurrection of her Lord, and we can take the time to explore some of the fundamental doctrines and mysteries of our faith. And I hope to be doing that over the next few weeks. But today I want to say something about some important stories in the national news. The first is the tragic bombing at the Boston Marathon last Monday, followed by the violent pursuit and apprehension of the two suspects, one of whom was killed and the other taken alive but in serious condition. Whatever the motivations of the young men who perpetrated this brutal and senseless crime, they remind us of the depth of evil which can exist in the human heart. We can understand weakness, the failure to resist temptation, and to live up to our higher ideals. But how can we explain the wanton slaughter of innocent victims? What purpose did it serve? What was it but an expression of pure and senseless hatred? There was another horrible crime, or rather series of crimes, in the news this past week. The trial of Kermit Gosnell, a man, I hesitate to call him a doctor, even though he has a medical degree, who ran an abortion clinic in Philadelphia for 4 decades, and who is on trial, accused of the death of a 41-year-old woman and 7 babies who were born alive, whose spinal cords were then severed and parts of their bodies were found in Gosnell's clinic. So-called partial birth abortion, which involves the delivery of a live baby and then deliberately murdering him or her, is illegal in Pennsylvania and 31 other states. But Gosnell is believed to have killed hundreds, perhaps thousands of newborn children in the course of his career as an abortionist. This story has been virtually ignored by all major news organizations, except for the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Wall Street Journal, and Fox News. But the real tragedy here is not the moral cowardice of the major media, or even the horror of late-term abortions. Rather, it is the fact of abortion itself. Since Roe v. Wade was decided in 1973, there have been 1.2 million abortions each year in our country. Abortion is the most common cause of death in America. In fact, there are more abortions every year in the United States than there are deaths from heart disease and cancer combined. Statistically, far and away the most dangerous place to be in America is in your mother's womb. Indeed, Senator Barbara Boxer of California, in defense of partial birth abortion, has suggested that a child's right to life does not begin at birth, but only when he or she comes home from the hospital. But whatever our national laws may say, our faith teaches us that to take an innocent life is murder. It doesn't matter whether you kill a child at conception or 6 weeks or 6 months. It doesn't matter whether the baby is in or out of the womb. Morally, all human lives are innocent until guilty of some crime, and there is no life more innocent and more defenseless than that of an infant in or out of the mother's womb. Well, with all this depressing news, where do we look for hope? As Catholics, we look to our faith, and especially to the heroes of our faith, the saints. And one such hero has been in the news lately. Father Emil Kapaun was born in Pilsen, Kansas, a small town near Wichita, in 1916. He was ordained as a priest for the Diocese of Wichita in 1940 and entered the U.S. Army Chaplain Corps in 1944. In 1950, Father Kapaun was ordered to Korea, and there he performed acts of gallantry and courage above and beyond the call of duty, while serving with the 3rd 1st Cavalry Division, and especially during combat operations against the enemy in the Battle of Unsan from November 1st to 2nd, 1950. On November 1st, as the Chinese Communist forces viciously attacked, Chaplain Kapaun calmly walked through withering enemy fire in order to provide comfort and medical aid to his comrades and rescue the wounded from no man's land. Though the Americans successfully repelled the assault, they found themselves surrounded by the enemy. Facing annihilation, the able-bodied men were ordered to evacuate. However, Chaplain Kapaun, fully aware of his certain capture, elected to stay behind with the wounded. And after the enemy succeeded in breaking through the defense, Chaplain Kapaun continued to comfort the wounded as hand-to-hand combat ensued. And shortly after his own capture, Father Kapaun, with complete disregard for his own personal safety, bravely pushed aside an enemy soldier who was preparing to execute Sergeant First Class Herbert Miller. Not only did Kapaun save the life of Sergeant Miller, but his unparalleled courage and leadership inspired all those present, including those who might otherwise have fled in panic. Father Kapaun was taken as a prisoner of war and spent 7 months in a camp with conditions of filth, forced labor, lack of medical care, and near starvation. Ignoring his own health, he dedicated himself to the care of his fellow prisoners. He led prayer services and continued to nurse the sick and wounded until he developed a blood clot in his leg. He was then moved to a primitive hospital, but was denied medical treatment, and there he died of pneumonia on May 23, 1951. The Diocese of Wichita immediately began the formal process that could lead to Father Kapaun's canonization, and in 1993, it was announced that Father Kapaun would receive the title of Servant of God, the first step in the process. And then last week, on April 11th, for his extraordinary heroism and selflessness, above and beyond the call of duty, and in keeping with the highest traditions of military service in our country, Father Kapaun was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. Father Kapaun thus joins Father Vincent Capodanno, a Maryknoll priest and U.S. Navy chaplain who served with the Marines in Vietnam and was killed ministering to the wounded on the field of battle in 1967. And Father Capodanno was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor in 1968 and was declared a servant of God in 2006. In these dark and difficult times, we can find hope and inspiration in the lives of such men as these, who showed heroic courage on the field of battle, and even more importantly, heroic charity in their love of God and of their fellow men. In the name of the Father, the Son, and of the